I'm Sarah with People for Bikes. Thanks for joining us in this series as we share our passion for making biking better for everyone. Policing and enforcement is a central component of most traffic safety plans in use today. The emphasis on fines, moving violations, and criminalization of unpaid tickets has created a vicious cycle of debt and incarceration. Existing research indicates that police are 20% more likely to stop Black drivers and twice as likely to threaten or use force against Black and Latinx drivers. Unfortunately, this problem is not unique to driving. Enforcement is also a major component of pedestrian and bicycle initiatives. Even as advocates have fought against unsafe road design and reckless driving, pedestrian and bicycle fatalities have continued to increase, reaching new record levels in 2019. While making our streets safer for everyone is critical, relying on an enforcement-centric approach too often ignores the vastly different lived experiences of Black and brown people with law enforcement. To learn more about the relationship between discriminatory transportation policies and safety, we spoke with Charles Brown, senior researcher at Rutgers University. His street-level research takes place at the intersection of transportation, health, and equity, drawing conclusions that position city leaders for a more equitable mobility future.
People of color and low-income people are more likely to be killed while walking and bicycling. In fact, I strongly feel that transportation has been weaponized as a tool of oppression within society. And this has unfortunately resulted in disparities in transportation access, mobility, and overall safety for Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. In terms of traffic violence, people of color and low-income people are more likely to be killed while walking and biking. In a recent study, Black and African Americans were 72% more likely to have been struck and killed by drivers while walking. In my own research, I found that Black and brown respondents do not feel that their children are safe from traffic while bicycling in their communities. They also reported that less than 1 in 4 feel that they can safely bike to local parks or trails from their homes. Blacks and Hispanics live in areas with disproportionate amounts of crime, which affects their travel experiences. Among these populations, the fear of being robbed and assaulted while bicycling is second after the fear of traffic collision. But let's not forget, when it comes to personal safety, much of this is due to a legacy of institutional and systemic racism in the US, which has led to a high concentration of poverty and racial residential segregation in these communities and other communities across the country. Fear of traffic injuries and deaths, police violence, and street harassment discourage active transportation in low-income and communities of color. Bicycle and pedestrian laws are disproportionately enforced against people of color. Then there's over-policing, or better yet, discriminatory policing, which led to disparities in traffic stops. African Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by law enforcement. Males also reported being stopped at a rate 7 times than that of females.
Black and brown cyclists are not immune from racial profiling and unequal traffic enforcement that has been frequently documented for motorists. A growing body of evidence from more than half a dozen studies suggests that communities of color are the target for a majority of traffic violations while riding a bike or walking through a neighborhood. Our sprawling list of traffic violations and reliance on enforcement against pedestrians and cyclists not only perpetuates racial profiling and policing of Black and brown people in our streets, but also make walking and biking feel less safe. To promote traffic safety without an over-reliance on enforcement or criminalization, a growing number of cities are looking at alternatives to enforcement, like improved street design, automated traffic cameras, or removing the responsibility of traffic enforcement entirely from the police.
First and foremost, I think that the people closest to the pain should have the most power. Through lived experiences, low-income and communities of color inherently understand the disproportionate risk they take when traveling and should play a leading role in selecting the right safety solutions. Equity analysis should be included by default in transportation projects to help local agencies understand the safety impacts of planning and design projects on communities of color, low-income populations, and other marginalized groups through engagement and analysis. Relying on law enforcement to create safer streets ignores the traumatic history between communities of color and police. Communities should consider reducing or eliminating police involvement in traffic safety in favor of street safety ambassadors, crossing guards, and other civilian-led efforts.
Officials should respond by listening to the lived experiences of communities directly impacted by traffic enforcement and incorporating the existing voices advocating for traffic safety approaches that acknowledge the inequitable and often violent impact of traffic enforcement on Black and Brown residents. Thanks for joining us as we looked at one of the ways your city can make bicycling better. Visit our City Ratings website for more tools and resources that will improve the health, livelihood, and future of our streets, cities, and planet. Together, let's create a better world through bikes.